Hare Krishna, everyone. We're with Sundarananda Prabhu, senior devotee from the ISKCON Croatian Yatra, senior disciple of Sacinandana Maharaj, and the head of the Bhakti Yoga Center in the center of Zagreb, where, in my opinion, the most effective outreach and preaching is going on in the whole Balkan zone, what to speak of Croatia. It's my opinion. So welcome, Prabhu, and I'm so glad that we can have this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I just had to apologize because your public is English speaking, and my English is very bad. Pronunciation and also the choosing the words. You just feel free to correct me because I'm not speaking English very regularly, and yeah, I learn a little bit just by conversing amongst devotees. I never learned English, and I had to apologize because I recently uh, listened reading of one of my dear senior colleagues from the my early days in Krishna consciousness, Alakananda from Belgrade, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is like hearing someone from America." Such a beautiful pronunciation. I felt so ashamed. So sorry.
Sundarananda Prabhu teaches Bhakti Shastri in English. There's no issue.
Wow.
Purity is the force. It's funny we speak about purity as the force because here we are going to talk for an hour or whatever about details and about dress. And so one could wonder, well, if purity is the force, why should we even sweat the details, as they say? Let me just start. I don't know if you've listened to the latest Namras podcast with Satsarup Maharaj. He mentions a story, an anecdote, which I found very profound to illustrate this difference between proper renunciation and false renunciation. Yukta Vairagya versus Falgu Vairagya. And he mentions how when he was getting ready to move into the ashram, it was all about moving into, surrender meant really not just give your heart to Radha and Krishna, but move into the ashram where the other 10 men were living. It was very much sort of a kind of a Gaudiya Math model, in my humble opinion, at the beginning of ISKCON, where men were just surrender meant to just to actually physically move into a center. Anyway, Shrug, I don't want to take the mic. He mentions how he had collected about 3-4 years worth of writing, and then, as many of us do and did, at least certainly in my case, of artificially renouncing what should not be renounced necessarily in Krishna's service, he burned. There was an incinerator where he burnt like 3 years of writing stuff. And then he told Hayagriva Prabhu, who had just gotten initiation, who was an author as well, who was a writer, I just burned all my writings. And Hayagriva Prabhu said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write for Krishna. And so how do you think this relates to the issue of external culture, of Europe, for example, in our case, of European culture, language, food, dress, especially born out of, 2,000 years of European, Christian, Western cultural production?
Well, I have to say some introduction to my background in Krishna consciousness, so that devotees or listeners can understand that it's not just Krishna West fanaticism, but it's something which is how to say to which someone else can also relate. I joined ISKCON. I started to practice 1989 by serving in army, because in my country, former Yugoslavia, when boys reach the age of 18, before going to college study or university study, they had to serve for 1 year in army, just to be trained in army first 3-4 months, and then the rest of the year we were served public, in different ways. And I started to practice Krishna consciousness there because I got the books on the day when I was leaving for service. And when I met devotees, I supposed to after I finished the serving in army, I supposed to continue my university study, uh, and I did it for a few months, and then I moved in ashram
You joined.
and joined, and for 25 years. It's not short period of time. Anyway, Krishna arranged that I had some really wonderful successes also in the preaching. Through the For 15 years, I was running the ISKCON temple in Zagreb,
Dick.
capital of Croatia, and we did wonderful preaching services. But through the experience of living in the ashram in the mid 90s in Croatia, we had 5, 6 temples, and altogether 250 full-time devotees. And of these 250 full-time devotees living in ashrams, there are now maybe 5 who survived
Like when you say survive, are you talking like survive
in ashram. In ashram, who are
survive
still,
staying in ashram? But many of them are still practicing at home.
yeah,
Hopefully.
any practicing at home. But my point is that that was the preaching. That was the Because if you are full time engaged, then you can more contribute to the preaching mission, to expanding of ISKCON or whatever. But we can understand that unfortunately this system didn't work, in a sense that if devotees would be prepared for that majority will marry, then even as a married people, as a professionals in a life, they could contribute much more to the preaching mission than they
Absolutely.
did.
Absolutely.
And this is unfortunate situation, and because majority of the devotees had to go backwards for, let's say, 5 whatever times they spend in ashram. They had to go backwards to either finish their education and then get profession, or just start to work or married or whatever. And seeing that, when I became temple president, uh, whoever of young people wanted to join temple, I made like obligatory that they need to finish their education. Even if they were living in a temple, I arranged the time for them that they can practice sadhana, that they can give some service, but main focus for them was to finish education. And one of our mutual friend, Patita Pavana, is such a person who started to practice when he was 16, 17 in high school, and he wanted to move in. And I said, you can, but one condition: give me phone of your mother. And I called mother and I said, he can stay with us, but he has to finish education. And he finished, he educated himself, he finished university study, and he's now
Yeah,
a
he's a very
businessman.
successful businessman, yeah. And very strict sadhaka as well.
Yeah, yeah, and preacher also, and there were several such cases when I made this mandatory for young people, that because my time was one situation when young people just dropped all education, and we moved in. We gave nice service to ISKCON for a while, but then we had to go backwards and start everything, because there were no strategic plan how to engage young people. And the devotees should understand that in mid 90s, in Croatia, we had huge Hare Krishna festivals with Goranga Bhajan band, touring through the Europe and also in our country. And in mid 90s, we had like 16 bhakti rickshaws also, just in Zagreb, with 160 young people who were, engaged in different ways in Krishna consciousness. And unfortunately, many of them are not anymore in Krishna consciousness. Hopefully, in some ways, they are remembering Krishna, whatever, but they are not active parts of ISKCON community. And that's something which has to be addressed, really.
Mm.
Because they were young, educated, and although they were not forced to come to join ashram, but even through the bhakti vrikshas, they were trained with the more in a strict way of rules and regulations, not so much in seeing the broader picture of wider picture of Krishna consciousness and their lives in Krishna consciousness.
Right. Right. And all I can say is right, right, right. Mature. I would have probably been $9 million richer if someone had preached to me like that. Tell me that if you want. I'm trying to figure out why is it that even though I think now even the more sort of traditional devotees tend to preach what you're talking about is a stanistitaha. You know, the 10th canto for those who don't know, 10:14:3 is a verse I often quote, 10:14:3, the third line, stanistitaha, while remaining situated in one's socially accepted position. Of course, it refers to ashram. You don't have to become a monk to practice Krishna consciousness. You can remain, a householder. But it obviously, I think, in my opinion, and you agree, applies also to the historical material culture around, surrounding our physical body, and not just the ashram we're in, but the actual culture that surrounds us, the language and everything. So I'm trying to figure out why is it that even though today in 2026, among European, Western devotees in America, also North America, New Zealand, Australia, many devotees agree on principle with what I just described and what you put into practice in your own center and in your own body language. But why is it that there's such still not opposition but hesitation to really do it? To really, really do it, especially on key days. And I'm specifically referring to dress. That's just I'm going to, because I think dress is one of the most important components of external culture. Maybe language and dress are the two most important products of cultural production. So and as you know me, I like to speak specifically on that because I think it has a huge impact. So why is it though? Why is there such a hesitation, a reticence, as we would say, to walk our talk, so to speak? Yeah, I agree. This is, the future or the way to go for a higher percentage of local people becoming interested in Krishna consciousness. But why are devotees still stuck? I'll be precise, for example, in having a shaved head and a shikha when they're not monks, they're not brahmacharis. Why are they still stuck, on Janmashtami or Initiation Day or Sunday feast, and so putting on these traditional Indian clothes? Why? Why is there this sort of dichotomy that I perceive?
Well, maybe in the future there will be amongst devotees or even non-devotees sociologists, sociological science who will, how to say it, investigate this in especially ISKCON is a interesting ground to investigate why. We can say on the basis of some uh, personal experiences why. It seems that it's difficult to change some scars from the childhood. And if we started Krishna consciousness, if our childhood in Krishna consciousness, meaning our beginning years in Krishna consciousness were, with full of impressions of that, then it's difficult to change it. And the main reason is that there were no strategic planning and there were no uh, deep thinking how our appearance in this situation will influence our future. And yeah, it's somehow also because Krishna consciousness.
Hello? You just froze there for a second. Sundar?
Sorry? Yeah, you are frozen. Yeah, yeah, you have been frozen to me. Your
Okay.
picture was frozen to me, so maybe it's delay in
One,
anyway. But you
two,
stop me when it's such a situation.
3. Go ahead.
Okay, so point is that Krishna consciousness is not mainstream, and in the beginning, people become sometimes little awkward with that. I'm now changing religion, or I'm different than others, and then this kind of identification with another group which gives you feeling of security or whatever, it's probably the main reason. Another reason is laziness, that we just don't think how our behavior, our outwardly looking will influence our preaching or our influence on society in a different way, how society will perceive us, etc. And I have to say, somehow, because from the beginning of my Krishna consciousness, I have been engaged in preaching, especially book distribution. And I understood that you need to adjust to people's, mindset that you can approach to them, because otherwise, selling Prabhupada's books is like selling, refrigerators to penguins. The people cannot relate to this. You need to find a way how to relate, and it forces you to be creative, to think, in a different ways how to approach to the people. And even while living as a monk in a temple for so many years and being like manager, I always adjust to such a situations. If I'm doing puja or anything like that, I understood, okay, I can be in uniform. But if I had to go to meet different people in a different occasion, I should adjust to their situation so that they can easily relate to me. And it requires thinking and planning. And unfortunately, I think that generally there is no such a strategic planning in ISKCON in a way that we can understand that our appearance in a society can influence society in positive or negative way. It's not sufficient that we have a purist philosophy, purist practice. It's not sufficient. We need to be relevant for the people. And if we kill the relevancy on the start, by our appearance, you have to, in order to be Krishna conscious, you have to be like me, bald head with a ponytail and, sheets on myself, orange or white, whatever. Then it's immediately blocking the relevancy in a start for the people. What to say?
Sridhar Maharaj gives the example of starting a football match trailing -3. You have to get 3 points just to gain their confidence and be at equal playing field. So then you can
start. Yeah, it's like that. Just excellent analogy. Yeah.
You brought up deity worship, okay, like for a monk. But let's go there. Let's go here if you don't mind. Please indulge me. I have a vision. I sound like Martin. I like to sound like Martin Luther King. I have a dream, but I have a vision based on this stanistitaha principle. It's not. I don't think it's too speculative or too off. But if that principle is real and to be taken very seriously, then in my opinion, it translates into this. It translates into Japanese pujaris performing puja in kimonos. It translates into Moroccan or Algerian pujaris performing their puja, in clean sattvic clothes, everything, revolutionary clean, as Prabhupada said, in their jalabas. It means, and also, someone from New York performing puja to the deities in a suit and tie, like whatever local culture, that is the way they dress. Bump that up to the mode of goodness and perform puja to the Sri Murti in your local clothes. Because and I'll just finish with this, and I want to ask your opinion. My opinion is that as long as we are claiming by our own body language that, especially in the sanctum sanctorium, the deity, the altar space is considered to be, right, the sanctum sanctorium. I think that's the Latin word for the holiest of holy places. In order to access that holiest of holy places and to worship God, we believe Radha Krishna, the Murti of Radha Krishna, in that most sacred of sacred spaces, and in order to access that place to worship God, we have to abdicate, we have to reject our culture, our local, whether it be Nigerian, Zulu, Peruvian, Croatian, Californian, Japanese. We have to reject that and then adopt the dhoti with no stitch cloth, when Prabhupada, our own founder, wore stitch cloth all the time. So that's another, very important avenue we should discussed the example of Prabhupada on the altar. He wore stitched cloth all the time. Of course, he didn't wear pants, but he wore stitched cloth. So stitched cloth is stitched cloth. What do you think on principle of this vision of mine? Is that too far
Yeah,
fetched?
yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I agree with that because I do puja every day,
Yeah, at your
not in.
programs, also even your public programs, I've seen it.
Yeah,
Even on Janmashtami, Radhastami, the devotees even who do the arti, what to speak of those who come and just pour water or yogurt, they're dressed like normal gentlemen and ladies of Zagreb.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because we are focused mostly on preaching to new people, and
But are you
we
implying that when they become more serious, then they'll graduate to
no,
an Indian model?
no, no. We continue like this, uh, because it's majority of our, so to say, clients or listeners are materially established people, people who have their careers in professional careers, they have their life, and we just teach them how to add Krishna consciousness to that. And they recognize that they need Krishna consciousness to improve their life because they have been successful in many ways, but something is missing. And when we present Krishna consciousness in a logical, understandable way, people can easily relate. For example, Sunday, I had in the same situation like this. I had a mantra meditation workshop with my friends from Split, city of Split in Croatia, who are running podcast Atma, which has
Atma podcast
100, 140,000
subscribers.
uh, followers, and it lasted for 2 hours. First hour was philosophy and theology of mantra meditation and practices from historical background, etc. And last hour was about chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and there have been hundreds subscribed listeners who stayed for 2 hours with us. 2 hours.
100.
And 50 of them paid donation fee to Atma, minimum 20 euros. And not that they were asked that they had to, but they have been inspired to pay. It was like offering. If you like support, you can, recommend a donation 20 euros. And 50 of them paid. And day after, we received several requests if we can send them japamala to their home addresses because they want to start to chant. So this is, and no one of them ever met devotee, in a person,
Wow.
just over this. And it shows that
I
it
was going to
shows
make a
that
joke, but I'm not going to make it. Go ahead.
I mean, it shows that people are recognizing that what we are offering to them is valuable and they want to accept it. But obviously, if we introduce, but now you have to change the dress, you have to do this, it wouldn't work. Certainly, it wouldn't work. So, yeah, I agree with your statement. This is the future of ISKCON. If we want to be relevant to the people, we need to adjust in
At
a
least
such a way.
it's gone in the West. It's gone in Europe and the West, or
Yeah,
outside,
yeah,
maybe outside of India. But we know, you and I, we're Western. We have white bodies, and so our field, our conditioning is European and Western. So at least we can speak for the West. I don't know if I told you there's this French philosopher. I never read any of his books, but his name was André Malraux, and he was like sort of a political philosopher from the end of the last century. And in a different context, he made this famous statement that the 21st century will be a spiritual century, or there will be no 21st century. In other words, at the time of the Cold War, we will
yeah.
blow ourselves up. So there's only one option. It's that humans become more spiritual or there will be no humanity. So in a similar way, and kind of echoing what Hridayananda says, how we have a Hare Krishna movement in the West, but we don't have a Western Hare Krishna movement. In a similar way, I think, and echoing your words, Krishna consciousness in the West will be European and American, or in Australia, like what will be Western culturally speaking, or there will be no Western Vaishnavism in the West. And the only Vaishnavism in the West that will be there is Vaishnavism in Indian cultural norms for a membership of members respected. We have nothing against them, of course, from the Indian diaspora and nothing else. Do you agree?
It seems like that. It seems like that. Unfortunately, because yeah, this is the greatest challenge. I think that only one who profits from this, uh, how to say, dress code, which is mainstream in ISKCON, is only Ganga Prasad, Gangotri, Dinesh,
The stores
and
in Loy Bazaar, the cloth
yeah,
shops in Loy
yeah,
Bazaar.
because
Prabhu, the other day, I'm not going to mention names, but I saw footage of a Vyasa Puja of a prominent householder. He's probably Vanaprastha now, but he's not sannyas, doesn't wear saffron. Prabhupada disciple in North America. I'm not going to mention if it's West Coast, East Coast, but in North America, who's an initiating guru. And it was his ex-birthday, Vyasa Puja. And the video was about an hour and a half long with offerings, kirtans, stage performance, his own talk. And I swear to God, I kind of skimmed through the whole video for an hour and a half, or maybe it was even 2 hours. And I saw one white devotee one time, like during the whole entire footage. There was only one frame or a few seconds where I saw the face of one white devotee, and everyone else were Indian devotees. Again, I say devotees because I respect devotees. I respect Vaishnavas. I don't care what body they have. And if they're from Indian bodies, all the better. I mean, from a sort of academic, external, historical, non-devotee perspective, it's more their religion than anybody else's. So obviously, I have no issue with that. I'm making sure I say that because sometimes I get criticized for being racist or not at all. But still, though, this devotee, as qualified as he is to be a Diksha guru, which I believe fully, how would you feel if you were a Diksha guru and your Vyasa Puja, and let's say in Croatia there was like a population of Indian immigrants of, let's say, 2%. In Croatia, it's very minuscule, but just imagine it was a lot bigger than it is now. Maybe it will increase. I heard you have a lot of people come from Nepal, right?
yeah, Nepal and India also.
So imagine you become a Diksha guru, and then your 79th or 80th or 81st Vyasa Puja, and then everyone who shows up in Zagreb at the Vyasa Puja are, respectable, worshipable in many cases, Vaishnavas from Nepali or Indian background. How would you feel, Sundarananda Prabhu?
As a complete failure as a preacher. I cannot say anything else because I remember, famous Kripamoya Prabhu from England, father of Janavi Harrison.
Who was
Uh,
nominated, her album was nominated. She may win
yeah,
in a couple of weeks.
amazing.
Let's pray
Yeah,
she wins.
For Grammy, yeah, amazing. So he visited Croatia because during the 90s and the beginning of 2000, we used to have summer festivals in Adriatic coast. And he visited, so we had after, and his comment was, "Wow, it's nice to see so many white faces," because there were like 500 devotees from this region, and since he is living and preaching in UK,
At the manor.
mostly, yeah, and most of his public are Indian devotees with Indian background, and he was, surprised in that way, and he couldn't hold on, and he commented on, like publicly. Nice to see. So it's not racism. It's like we know this story described in Transcendental Diary of Harishari Prabhu when Prabhupada visited Nairobi, where
Kenya.
Brahmananda, in that time Maharaj was in charge and preaching, and there was a program, and they were mostly Indian background people. And Prabhupada commented, we are locals. We want locals. So in order to get locals, we need to communicate locally. And yeah, we have like one of our brands of Bhakti Yoga Center is a series of lectures with the title Urban Mystic. I don't know. Did I pronounce properly?
Yeah.
Urban Mystic. I derived this like name from teachings of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj because I like his work. He was my GBC for a while and a role model, and his series of books, Spiritual Warrior and Leadership for the Age of Higher Consciousness, are really plotting directions how to preach to Western people. And I call this series of lectures Urban Mystic in the sense that they are meant for normal people who are living in the cities. They have their professions, work, etc. This is the way how we should preach. And just yesterday evening, I had my regular Tuesday Bhagavad Gita classes, and we read from 12th chapter of Gita. I think it's verse 6 and 7, or maybe 8. I'm not sure. In a comment, Prabhupada explains one of the beautiful comments in which Prabhupada put it the whole context of Bhakti Yoga. Just to study this purport is sufficient, to be inspired in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada explained that Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness is actually very simple. You don't need to change your profession. You don't need to change anything superficially. You just learn how to think of Krishna and chant Hare Krishna. And then we know that a whole philosophy of implementation of chanting is that we associate with because Nama Avatar Krishna is present to the holy names directly, and holy names addresses directly the soul. And in that sense, we need to change anything superficially. And it's so, how to say, so empowering to the people to practice Krishna
And to
consciousness.
see examples. This is where I got to glorify you.
Well,
You are showing allow me. You're showing the example. You're showing the example from morning to night. It's not that, again, I'm not going to mention names, but you have certain spiritual leaders in the West who are supposed to be kind of forward thinking, but they're still stuck, in my opinion, stuck in this model of, well, when I go to the morning program, to Mangalarti, Guru Puja, I'm going to be dressed in dhoti and kurta, and then somewhere during the day after the morning program, I'll go to somewhere private and change into my regular clothes, right? There's still this, what I call sartorial schizophrenia. I'm sorry. Or let's just make it not so offensive or insulting. Sartorial complication, because it's twice as complicated. It's not simplicity, it's the opposite. It's you have twice the wardrobe as opposed to just one simple. When you have one wardrobe, I've seen it because I've stayed in your room. You have one wardrobe with 5 or 6 t-shirts, 5 or 6 shirts, 5 or 6 pants, 1 or 2 sports jackets. That's it. And then from morning to night, including doing Bhagavat Marg services, including doing Pancharatrika services, you show the example really of what you're talking about, of what you just mentioned now before. Just all you have to do, quoting Prabhupada in the 12th chapter, purport somewhere, all you have to do is just add Krishna to your life. You're showing it by your own example. And how I wish more temple presidents and leaders who are not necessarily sannyasis, but who are more like in the world, would follow your example.
well, I mean, for me, it's natural. As I said, majority of my career in Krishna consciousness, I'm actually all my career, I'm somehow involved in preaching, organizing different kinds of the preaching activities, festivals, uh, different venues, different type of the programs, etc. And I would always adjust in a way that it's, if I organize Festival of India, then obviously on the stage there will be, you know either people from India or some. But if I organize something else, then it will be like that.
Why
And
call
one of
it?
the
Sorry, but why call it Festival of India? Oh God! But
no,
anyway, one of the things I know in the
no, because
past.
yeah, in the past. But one of the wonderful examples, which
Again, nothing against India, but sorry, but
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
well,
All
what's good
it's
against
it's
India?
not
Nothing against India.
it's a not point of racism. It's a not point of being better or worse. It's just point of strategies how to present Krishna consciousness if we want to stay relevant
And if I
in
may
this.
add, along, if I may humbly add along what you just said about the point is to stay relevant. Our mission is not to spread Indian culture. Our
Yeah,
mission, our modus operandi is to spread Krishna consciousness, love of Radha Krishna, faith that Radha Krishna is God, chanting of Radha Krishna's holy names, and worship of Radha, and reading the Bhagavatam. That's my understanding. That's what our mission is, not more and not less.
yeah. I mean, I wanted to say that I agree fully. One of the wonderful examples is Matsyavatara Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple from Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started his project, the Centro Bhaktivedanta something studies, 30 years ago or something, because he holds, I think, two PhDs, and he developed curriculums how to give higher education to the people, including Krishna consciousness. And he developed such a project in a way that all of his disciples are highly educated and they follow the local culture. They follow Western local culture. They are not following Indian culture.
Especially
And
Italy.
it's
I
one
mean,
of
Italy, the capital of fashion of of the Western
yeah,
world.
yeah.
And you know what's sad, Sundarananda? I know I've been there because I've seen it. There's heavy politics against him. He's not welcome in some of the prominent ISKCON centers.
Yeah, unfortunately, the vote is because it's much easier to change outwardly than to change inwardly.
Mm.
And when we change outwardly, we assume now we are Krishna conscious. But it's not that by changing the dress and hairstyle you become Krishna conscious. It's not like that. It requires the work inside, and there is a wonderful, how to say, wonderful class which my little younger god brother Shranga Thakur Prabhu many years ago gave with the title, how it was, outwardly ordinary, inwardly extraordinary.
That's exactly what Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath Das in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
And also to Brahmana from South India who wanted to
Exactly.
join him. Yeah.
Stay where you are. Lord Chaitanya goes to such an extreme, we could say, in Chaitanya Charitamrita. None of us do this. He tells Raghunath, it's right there in whatever, Madhya or Antya Lila, when Raghunath Das, goes to try to see Lord Chaitanya the first time. He's a grihasta, a young grihasta. It's right there in in this, classical Bengali. Mahaprabhu tells him, go back home. And he says, practice your Krishna consciousness so discreetly, so inwardly that people will not be able to even tell that you're a devotee of Krishna. It's right there. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm 95% accurate here. Practice Krishna consciousness in such a way that, and then you think, with all due respect to these Vaishnavis from Russia, okay, who are gloriously chanting Hare Krishna in the streets, but now, and this is just one example, I could pick many others, but this is flagrant to show the contrast. At every Harinam in all the major cities of the world now, invariably you'll see a group of 4 or 10 Russian Vaishnavis, wearing not just a sari, but a sari of the exact same color. you know, you've seen the footage, doing the
No.
exact same mannerism. And we could think like, well, is that what Lord Chaitanya's, and they're not sannyasinis or brahmacharinis, they're householders. Uh, how does that jive with Lord Chaitanya's instruction to Raghunath Das?
Yeah, as I said, unfortunately, we don't have strategies, developed strategies how to preach in the West. Krishna Kshetra Maharaj used to say, Krishna consciousness is spreading. Uh, how it
In
said,
spite of?
despite us, something like that.
In spite of us.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah. I mean, Krishna consciousness is transcendental, and somehow Krishna is finding the way to reach out those who are searching for him. But we as promoters of Krishna consciousness, we don't have any strategy how to do this. And yeah, I have to glorify my dear friends, especially Dharma Group and Krishna Jivani, who are running this Atma project in Split, because they developed such a wonderful strategy. They have like Atma podcast, which invites different kind of spiritual people from different traditions, even not just spiritual people, but healers and those who are trying to find a way how to uplift humanity through the different ways. But then they have a extra project, Veda Atma, in which only devotees are presenting different topics of Krishna consciousness in a way which is relevant to the people. And they have such a great success. And people are staying at home. Maybe they will never be able to meet devotees and they will become Krishna bhaktas, like wonderful lady called Liliana from city of Rijeka in Croatia who wrote me letter. I received Bhagavad Gita. I received your introduction book. I'm reading it, and I am in spirituality for many years, but now I'm 78, 78, Chandra, and I would like to start to chant Hare Krishna. So probably, maybe, or whatever, she will not be able to meet devotees.
Speak of
Although
go to India, what to speak of go to Guru
yeah,
Bazaar and buy her
but
saris and
but it might happen that Krishna will accept her. Probably Krishna will accept her. We can say surely Krishna will accept her. So now we have to think what we want, because by whole Europe is in a how to say demographic
decline.
downfall, decline, and obviously to survive, the working power will come from countries which have demographic upgrade all the time. That means especially where economy is very bad, they will start to come to work, and ISKCON will finish just to have Indian or Nepali diaspora or whatever. And unfortunately, when you create such a situation that majority of people on your program are Indian, then local people, when they come, they feel, aha, it's something Indian, it's not for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We see this also, Prabhu, in Paris. I've seen it. Like there was this one guy, an African French guy, born in France, but from an African background. He used to come. We had a little preaching center similar to yours for a few years that Govardhan Puja Prabhu from Italy was sponsoring right in the heart of the Quartier Latin of Paris. And it was very much come as you are. Nobody was wearing Indian clothes. You could even walk in with your shoes, just simple kirtan philosophy, very light prasadam. And he was liking it. And then I'm not justifying what he did, which I'll describe, but I'm just echoing your words, Prabhu. He came to the Sunday program at our temple of Radha Parashishwara, which is in a suburb of Paris, and which has, for whatever reasons, been basically taken over. And again, this is not a criticism, it's just an objective observation by members of the Bangladeshi community. It's kind of followed the same mood of, or the same trajectory as ISKCON New Orleans in America. When you go to ISKCON New Orleans in Mississippi or Louisiana, the temple is basically run by West Bengali. Some of them are wonderful Vaishnavas. Some of them are, like old friends of mine from 30 years ago who keep a wonderful standard of deity worship and do prasadam distribution and they have lectures. But most of their congregation is Bangladeshi. Now it's become an ISKCON Bangladeshi oriented or West Bengali oriented ISKCON center, and then never will go back to a sort of a mainstream, well, mostly white with some Latino, some black, demographics. So similarly in Paris, for the Radha Parashishwar temple, that's the trajectory it's taken. And so this black guy came, and he was just like, he was shocked, and he never came back. He dropped Krishna consciousness. I'm not justifying it. It's too bad he didn't have the broader vision. But just to echo your words, Prabhu, as an
Yeah, unfortunately, I can say that I have such a beautiful experiences from my childhood in Krishna consciousness, and when I go to India for pilgrimage, I usually in India I wear dhoti because it's some sentiments,
Mhm.
but and it's probably for everyone like this, but since
I
everyone
wish it
is not
wasn't,
a
because I'm in Mayapur right now, and I'm the only white guy in pants at Guru Puja, and I feel so out of place.
yeah, I mean it's nice. So
Okay.
But I wanted to say that probably it's with everyone like this, and I call this, you know, it's a little bit like out of the box, but I will connect. I I call this alibi service, alibi service. How it's called?
An alibi service, huh? Explain it. That's interesting. I've never heard that. Please
Is
explain.
did I pronounce properly? You know
Well,
what
you
it
say
means?
alibi. Like alibi means if you do a crime and you create a
Yeah,
false
yeah,
story, that's your
yeah.
alibi.
So alibi service means that you do like something to justify your shortcomings.
Okay.
For example, I as a temple president, I had Sankirtan devotees. I'm Sankirtan devotee, and the guy goes out for 2 hours and rest he's scrolling on mobile or something. This is not the way how preachers and monks are operate. And I call this alibi service. For example, my I can say the name because I don't mind. Our GBC Prahladananda Maharaj has alibi. We had wonderful Ratha Yatra in Zagreb. Hundreds of devotees were dancing, and I said, Maharaj, this is alibi service.
Mhm.
Because what's the result of this? It's just Maha Harinam once a year, and
And then
and
the
it's
yatra
not
is dead the rest of the year.
and it's not hundreds of devotees, but few, uh,
Doesn't.
maybe
Okay.
40, 50, few dozens, yeah. And what then?
What
So
then?
this is justification for all year of nothing because we had the Ratha Yatra.
So are you
And
saying the Indian clothes, the dhoti, the sari, the shika, and the bald head for the
yeah,
grihasthas, that's sort of
it's alibi service because it's easy. You don't need to test your brain how to give Krishna consciousness to local people. You
Mhm.
just have, diaspora who feels very how to say connected with due to homesickness or whatever. And then you have
And
a
even
devotees.
gratified to see white people, giving up their culture and following
Yeah,
our culture, and therefore following us in a way. And it's super gratifying. If I was an Indian,
yeah,
oh man, I would be experiencing so much false ego satisfaction, especially if I have a little trace of post-colonial revenge
yeah,
sentiment against the
yeah.
white man. What nectar! What nectar to see these white people, sacrificing their own culture, spitting on their own culture, and claiming that mine is the only is actually mine is the only is spiritual. Wow. I mean,
Yeah, and therefore I said that unfortunately, when you have a leaders who don't understand, who are satisfied with alibi service and even promoting this how successful I am, then we have a real problem. Then we have a real problem. Also Kakudmi Prabhu, he used to serve in LA for some 10 years or something.
Kakutni Prabhu, for those who don't know, is a Croatian devotee who lived in LA for a long time. His son was born there. He's a very nice devotee, a preacher. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he developed also his preaching in many ways. He wrote two books or something. And when some of senior devotees, including our GBC, was introduced with his preaching, he said, "What we are doing, Harinam and book distribution, this is like American product, and what Kakudmi is doing, this is like Chinese product."
What?
But even if you go to this analogy, we can admit that China technologically improved, that things that they are now even better maybe than America and many many things. But this is the analogy which leader, the highest top leader, who's supposed to organize community and to see things that they developed. This is how he uh, clarified to devotees who become devotees through the Kapudmis
Mm.
preaching. He
Oh my God.
preached to them, and this is very bad. This is the reason why things are in that way, and this I call alibi service.
Mm.
We have something via ISKCON, we have some temple, we have some this and that, and this is the wonderful. Why? Because we are stuck, and we don't want to change, and this is the situation. And if you see Prabhupada, everything what Prabhupada did was revolutionary.
Yeah.
And it was not that it was once revolutionary and then stereotyped. No, every time was revolutionary.
He changed. He adapted.
And can you imagine that some Orthodox preacher goes to rock concert,
The
like
mantra,
Prabhupada
you're
did?
talking about the mantra rock dance and the
Yeah,
Avalon Ballroom in
yeah,
1967 in
yeah.
San Francisco.
Can you imagine this? Can you imagine what Prabhupada did? It's just all revolutionary.
Yeah.
And all the time of his preaching career, everything was revolutionary.
Avant-garde. Yeah.
Even when he was in India, what he tried, what he did was revolutionary
And his
for the
guru
mainstream.
also, his guru was the first one to drive a
Bhaktisiddhanta,
car, you know?
yeah, Bhaktisiddhanta, not just car. The mind blowing thing was when I listened, unfortunately, late Kadambakana Maharaj, who gave a class in Mayapur. I was on that class. We had they were just published this biography of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur by Bhakti Vikash Maharaj,
Mm.
and on the class
Pretty good, I have to say.
he was reading to us that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur invited the governor of Calcutta to Mayapur, and he ordered his disciples to find meat menu.
Right? Meat,
And
yeah. There's the
in
meat.
the courtyard of Yoga Pit or Chaitanya Saraswati Math, he offered them
Meat.
meat. It's mind blowing. We would never do this, but if you think why he did this, then you can understand that he was so revolutionary and so transcendental in a sense that Krishna consciousness is beyond everything. And it's same when Harikesh Prabhu.
I was just thinking of that analogy.
No, when he was sent to preach in Eastern Bloc, Russia, whatever, and he told Prabhupada, I don't have anything to eat, and Prabhupada told him, eat meat and preach.
And he said, what about my consciousness?
Yeah,
To hell with
and
your consciousness. I
yeah,
heard.
your consciousness, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, to what degree are we bending our backs? To what degree are we going to the I like to use the analogy of like let's say you have a perimeter, and the center is like ultra conservative, let's say, or ultra traditionalist. And then you can go to the you go to the inside of the perimeter, and as long as you're staying within the perimeter, you haven't compromised the essential principles of Krishna consciousness, echoing Rupa Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Samrita Sindhu, like principles and details. And so, like, to what degree are we going to the edge of inside? To what degree are we bending our backs backwards to the extreme limit of compromising our principles, but not compromising, but making our products so user friendly within the perimeter of what's allowed, so that we can get the maximum number of souls through the door of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement? How many devotees are meditating like this?
You are so fired up when you're talking about this. It's so nice to see. I mean, it's unfortunately, as I said, this is the mentality of complacency, laziness, and complacency. We are satisfied with what we have, and in order to cover up our insufficiencies and incompetences, but trying to show up how we are wonderful, we just ruin preaching mission. I mean, I can say, I can cry bitter tears of sadness for the Croatian Yatra, who is just dying day by day because of the mainstream ISKCON is led by people who are not even preachers. What to say, like enthusiastic, devotees, etc. It's just, I'm keeping a position in institution because it gives me feeling I'm worthy, but I'm not thinking am I capable to inspire anyone. I'm not capable to inspire myself, what to say to inspire anyone else. And this is the tragedy of ISKCON preaching mission. And unfortunately, the ISKCON has become so big that all leadership is dealing with the administrative bureaucracy, things, solving the problems, issues, and no real strategic planning, how to empower devotees, and even, senior generation, not everyone, but many of the senior generation, Prabhupada disciples, leaders, they treat others like, small children. You are 50, I'm 55.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm still treated as a, naughty kid, not as a rational human being with experiences, with, this is how to say, uh, resource. Experience is resource. If someone is experienced in something, this is resource, valuable resource. And then because you raise the voice, hey, this is wrong direction, then you are treated as a young naughty kid. No,
Yeah.
no, no, you cannot. It's so
Offensive,
funny.
offensive.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny. And with such a mindset, we cannot, unfortunately, develop things. And what will stay as a uh, inheritance for the future will be just much more challenges, which we, like Hridananda Maharaj said, we are losing -3, and we need to catch up just to start to play. And this is the, yeah, I mean, my Guru Maharaj is a very known as a, how to say, as a very uh, creative preacher, someone who,
Sachinandan Swami.
yeah, who is very masterfully keeping the deep traditional things with the modernity.
Yes.
but but sometimes, due to the habits, I even from him I can hear such a. I was in a Swiss summer camp, and there was a beautiful class in which he was explaining that Krishna consciousness is not outwardly thing, and he was mentioning specific details like, haircut, like, and then half an hour later we met on the corridor, and I was in a regular, pants and polo shirt, and he told me, because we used to travel and preach, when I was monk, and he told me, Sundarananda, you used to look so nice in dhoti.
And you were probably like, "What? What? Like,
No, no, no. And I laughed and I said, wow, Guru Maharaj, I just came from the wonderful class in which was described that Krishna consciousness is not outwardly. And
did you
of
say I
course,
just came? Did you say I came from your class or from a class?
from the wonderful class,
The wonderful class.
because it was wonderful. And of course, he knew what I'm talking about. He laughed. And I don't want to be put in a situation that I have to justify that, Guru Maharaj, I'm a little bit in Maya now, and I'm loose in
I mean, I
no,
have
it's
to.
like that.
Yeah.
Just to finish my point,
Sorry.
because I am now running the preaching center in downtown of Zagreb, which is maintained by restaurant and catering, prasadam distribution, which is, we can say, business. And I'm preaching to people who are established, and I don't want to confuse them. So now I'm like this, but when I bring you to the festival, I will change my dress, I will change my. It doesn't have a sense, and this is my reason. I'm not attached for this and that. It's sometimes easier to wear dhoti and kurta sometimes, but it's not. It's wrong message. So this is the reason why I'm following this. And when I moved out from the temple, I took off my shika. Probably I will be soon due to the old age, bald head, and wouldn't be able to grow it anyway. But I did this purposefully. John Ivas, my dear friend and colleague, we did the same thing,
Yeah, purposely.
because
That's the whole point. It's purposely.
yeah,
It's for the
because
preaching.
it's just the wrong message, and
I
I
remember
don't say
uh,
I don't say that everyone should do this.
I
It's
do.
not,
I do.
yeah. I mean, but
I do. In the West,
if someone is living in a traditional temple as a monk, I don't have
as
a
a
problem
monk,
with
okay,
that.
if you're wearing saffron, if you're wearing
Yeah,
orange robes, you are in a brahmachari ashram, as a ashram living saffron-clad brahmachari, or you've taken sannyas, then yeah. In my opinion, other than that, and you're white or black or African or Latino, you're not in India, there is no justification whatsoever. You're only hurting the preaching. But
yeah, that's true.
echoing your Gumarj, I also changed. I made this decision to cut my shika off and to start wearing Western clothes, not because oh, Chandrasekhar has fallen, like you just said, but because I did the exact same thing as you, and the same reasoning. This is the intelligent thing to do in terms of nonverbal communication. Saint Francis of Assisi is alleged to have said, "Preach your whole life, and sometimes, if necessary, speak."
Say something. Yeah,
Say
say
something.
something.
I remember at
Yeah,
one of the Serbian camp festivals, after like maybe 6 months, I sort of decided to no, I'm gonna stop wearing Indian clothes. Your Sachinandan March after a kirtan, he called me over and he said, Chandrasekhar, because he had seen me also when I was traveling with Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who Bhakti Charu saw me, I used to get into arguments with him, but I would stop because I didn't want to commit Vaishnava, aparat to your guru. But it got to a point where sometime when that topic came up, last time we were at a table and someone brought it up, and Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who was sitting like next to me, he smiling, he said, Chandrasekhar and I, we don't talk about this topic. Well, that was cute. But Sachinanda Maharaj, he told me, Chandrasekhar, I see that you are dressed differently now than before. And this is where he really touched my heart. He said, and I know that there must be some thinking behind this. Those were his exact words. I know that there must be some thinking behind this. And I felt so validated, as a aspiring preacher, someone who's trying to, think of the preaching mission. That here's someone who acknowledges that it wasn't just a whimsical decision or I'm materially attached. That's why I'm doing it. No, it was a conscious, strategic decision, and so I really appreciate that. Anyway, my friend, we're
yeah.
here for a while. We've been speaking for an hour. Would you like to add some things, or should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, I can say something. When I stopped to travel and do book distribution, because it was an urgent situation when end of 90s when everything changed in our zone. Harikesh Prabhu stopped to be GBC, etc. All his disciples who were our leaders also stepped back, and we were just in the beginning of building temple, etc. It happened that I become temple president, so I couldn't travel anymore to do book distribution regularly. But as a preacher, I created different other places because I have connections of the people who used to buy books from me, and I started Namahata programs in the two cities nearby Zagreb. Uh, and every Saturday afternoon, I would travel. And we started with the three people, then expanded in each city. There is like 15 initiated devotees after sometimes. And sometimes I would travel in a dhoti because I used to live as a monk. That sometimes I would with a car. Sometimes I would travel, but mostly I would travel in my Western cloth. And all of these people are people local, living locally, they have their professions, jobs, whatever. And I never pushed them that they need to change anything like that. And they accepted Krishna consciousness, and many of them are now more than 20 years devotees, still devotees. And it was in the beginning of 2000, from 1999 till 1995. I used to go every Saturday in these two cities because they are close by, maybe 20 kilometers. And sometimes people would travel to one city, sometimes to other. And in that way, we got in both small cities. Kryzhevci is a city of 11, 12,000 people, and there were 15 initiated devotees. Another one is 20 thousand citizens, and there are also 15 or some devotees initiated. But after that, no one joined anymore. No one become Krishna conscious because no one started to continue with such a type of the preaching. But we could see that it's not so difficult if we are inspired and if we know how to present Krishna consciousness in a relevant way. And a relevant way means not schizophrenic way. We are the best. ISKCON is the best. Bhakti yoga is the best. But we unfortunately are lower than average. This is not the way. We need to really live what we preach. And we had to uh, find ways how to present Krishna consciousness that people can use it in daily life and feel happy and encouraged in life, being Krishna conscious. This is how I see things.
You're echoing Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14.3, Prabhu.
Well, Hare Krishna.
My dear Prabhus, thank you for hearing. If you're still with us, we thank you very much. We offer you our obeisances. We hope we didn't offend anyone. And thank you to Sundarananda Prabhu for your Sangha.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripasindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thanks, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.